In today's video, I'm going to be sharing how to crochet the popular retro daisy flower square. I've had a lot of requests for this video, and I want to show you that it's a lot easier than you think. Now, please keep in mind that this is not a tutorial for the written patterns that are available. This is just my approach to the design with what I hope is a simpler method to form the square around the daisy. With that said, let's get started. These squares that you see here measure approximately 6.5 by 6.5 inches. I used a worsted weight cotton yarn with a 4mm hook. And you can find all the details about the yarn in the description box below the video. To begin, we're going to create the center of our flower. To do this, we're going to add 8 single crochets to a magic ring. Wrap the yarn around your fingers, pull the yarn through, add a chain to secure. Next, add your 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8. Pull to tighten your center. Add a slip stitch into the very first stitch that you made. And now we're going to take our 8 single crochets and turn them into 16 double crochets for round 2. So start with a chain 2 or 3 to serve as your first double crochet. Working in the same stitch, add a double. And now 2 double crochets in each stitch around to give you a total of 16 double crochets. To fasten off, add a slip stitch into the very first true stitch that you see on top and fasten off. So now we're going to start on our petals and our background color at the same time. So for each round, we'll be working with 2 colors. We don't need to fasten off for this. We're just going to drop the color until we need it again. Really, really easy. We're always going to start with a petal color, so grab your petal color first. You can either do a standing double crochet or just fasten on with a slip stitch with a chain 2 or 3 to serve as your first double crochet. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to fasten on with a slip stitch and chain 2 to serve as my first double crochet. Next, in the same stitch, add 2 more double crochets. This is going to form the base of our petal. Chain 1, skip the next stitch and do 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip a stitch and do 3 double crochets into that stitch. Do this all the way around. Coming to the end of the round, chain 1 and add a slip stitch into the top of the first true stitch that you see. Now, instead of fastening off, add a long loop, or you can add a stitch marker to hold that stitch in place. At this point, you should have 8 clusters with a chain 1 space in between. So we just completed the petal for round 3. Now we're going to do the background color for round 3. Add a slip knot to your hook. Now we're going to be fastening on into the stitches below in round 2, in between the spaces between the clusters or our petals. You want to fasten on into the stitch right below where you fastened off. So working into the stitch from round 2, bend those petals behind a little bit so you can just work directly into that stitch and fasten on. Chain 2 or 3 to serve as your first double crochet here. I'm just going to do a chain 2. And now we're going to go and work into the next available stitch between those clusters. To get there, we want to do an additional chain 4. So that's our double crochet essentially. Now chain 4 more. And work a double crochet into that next stitch. Just bend those petals behind. And just work into that stitch. Chain 4. Working into the next available stitch between those clusters, another double crochet. and continue this all the way around. To complete the round, add a slip stitch into the top of the chain that you made. If you did 3 chains, then go into the 3rd chain. If you did 2 chains like I did, then add a slip stitch into the 2nd chain. Do not fasten off, just make a long loop, or you can add a stitch marker. And that is round 3 completed, the petal color and the background color. Okay, now we're ready for round 4, and we're going back to the petal color. We start each round with the petal color, and essentially we're just bringing those petal colors forward. This little chain from the background is going to always sit behind those petals. So just bring that loop into the front. We're going to widen the petal here by taking these 3 double crochets and turn them into 4 double crochets. So to begin, chain 2 or 3 to serve as your first double crochet. You'll notice that it does wrap around that chain, but other than this right here, you're going to be working directly into these stitches. You're not going to wrap around that chain. So we've just created our first double crochet. Now we're going to do an increase into the next stitch. You can actually put this increase anywhere you like. I'm just going to do it in this next stitch. So that's 2 double crochets into the top of that stitch. 1, 2, and then 1 double crochet into the next stitch. Next, chain 2 and complete the same sequence. Now again, we're going to do an increase into the petal. We're going to start with 1 double crochet into the top of that very first stitch. I'm just pulling that chain behind and just working into the top of the petal stitches. In the next one, an increase. That's 2 double crochets. And then 1 double crochet in the next stitch. This will give you a total of 4 double crochets. Chain 2. And in those 3 stitches, work your double crochets. 1, increase in the next, 2, and 1 in the next. 1 double crochet. That will give you 4 double crochets. Chain 2 and repeat around. Okay, I've reached the end. Chain 2. And then add a slip stitch into the top of the first true stitch that you see from the beginning stitches. Do not fasten off, just make a long loop or add a stitch marker to hold it in place. And now we're back with the background color. We're still on round 4. We're going to take our double crochets and turn them into 2 double crochets. So to begin, chain 2 or 3 to serve as your first double crochet, and then in the same stitch, add a double crochet. Remember, we're just tucking the previous stitches behind as we work. Next, chain 5. Now we're going to work 2 double crochets into the background color from round 3. Remember, we're pushing the petal color behind and just working into the top of that stitch. One and 2. Chain 5. Moving over to the next background stitch. 2 double crochets. Chain 5. Okay, just completed my last chain 5, working a slip stitch into the first stitch that I made of the round. Do not fasten off, just do a long loop or add a stitch marker. And now we're ready for round 5. And now we're doing another increase to take our 4 double crochets and turn them into 5. And you can add your increase wherever you like. So to begin, chain 2 or 3 to serve as your first double crochet. I'm going to add my increase in the 3rd stitch. So working into the next stitch, add a double crochet. Notice I'm pushing the chain behind and just working into that double crochet stitch. In the next stitch, I'm doing the increase. 1, 2, and then a double crochet in that final stitch. That gives us 5 double crochets. Chain 2, that'll get us over to the next petal. I'm doing a double crochet into the first stitch, a double into the second stitch, and I'll do my increase in the third stitch. That's 2 double crochets. A double crochet into that final stitch, giving me a total of 5 double crochets. Chain 2 and repeat all the way around, adding a slip stitch into the top of the first true stitch. That way, when I do my slip stitch, the stitch will sit on top of that first chain 2 that I made. Now, instead of switching over to our background color, we're sticking with our petal color to do the tip of our petal. This is our final round for our petals. So we just created a slip stitch into that very first stitch. Just leave everything as is. We're going to work into that middle double crochet with 5 double crochets. This is like a shell stitch. If you want, you can add a chain 1 if you need a little bit of wiggle room, but I'm just going to go straight into the doubles for this petal. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. To anchor the shell down, add a slip stitch into the top of that final stitch below. Now chain 2 to get across to the next petal, and add a slip stitch into the very first stitch, 5 into the middle stitch or the third double crochet, and then add a slip stitch into the final double of that petal to anchor that shell down, and then just repeat this all the way around. Slip stitch into the last stitch there, chain 2, and then add a slip stitch into the very beginning slip stitch that you made. And guess what? At this point you can actually fasten off. We are all done with our petal. So we're still working round 5, but now we're bringing in our background color. So to continue building our background color, we want to take these 2 double crochets and turn them into 3. So to begin, chain 2 or 3 to serve as your first double crochet, and then in the next stitch add 2 double crochets. I'm just going to push the petal color back and work in front of it. One double, and then a second double in the same stitch. So now I have 3 double crochets for the background color. Now, instead of going across with chains to work into the next background color, we're actually going to start forming the square now. So we're going to be doing double crochets into that back chain. Now, a quick little tip here, at this point as you're doing that, you can tack down the petal so it stays in place, or you can just let it sit freely like I have here. It's completely up to you. If you want these to tack down, you're going to attach at the 3rd double crochet, and I'll show you how to do that here. If you don't want to tack down your petal, then just work your 5 double crochets into that back chain. So that's 1 double, 2. Now if you do want to attach your petal, work half of your double crochet, and then before you finish it, just grab a loop from behind that petal and then continue on with that double as normal. That way it will hold that petal in place. And then continue on. That was 3 doubles so far, so 2 more into that chain space. 1 and 2. Okay, and now we're back to the foreground color of the background. We're going to take these 2 double crochets and turn them into 3. So I'm bringing it forward, just working into the stitch. That's 1 double crochet. And now I'm doing an increase in the next stitch. That's 2 doubles, 1 and 2. I've come to the end of the round. I've done my 5 double crochets. I'm going to add a slip stitch into the top of the first stitch from the beginning of the round. And now we're ready for round 6, and this is where we're going to form our corners for our square. And we're going to dive right into our very first corner. So as you can see, we have 3 double crochets here to work into. We're going to do a double crochet for the first stitch, add our corner in the middle stitch, and then do a double crochet in that final stitch. So to do our first double, chain 2 or 3 to serve as that first double crochet. And now we're going to make our corner in that middle stitch. It's going to be 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, all in that same stitch. So 1 double, 2 double, chain 2, and then 2 more doubles in that same stitch. 1 and 2. Do another double crochet. So in this corner space here, we actually have 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 double crochets. That's our corner space. And now we're going to work our way across to the next corner, which is over here, but we need to straighten this curve out a little bit. So for that sequence, we're going to do 1 half double, and then 11 single crochets, and then 1 half double. So working in the next stitch, half double, a single crochet in the next 11 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Moving our way back up, half double crochet. And as you can see, we're back to our 3 doubles like we were in that previous corner. So again, that's 1 double crochet in the first double. Now we're going to make our corner, 2 double crochets, 1, 2, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets in the same space. 1 and 2. A double crochet in that final stitch. And now we're ready for our sequence to get over to the next corner, which is a half double crochet, 11 singles, and then another half double crochet. And you're just going to continue this all the way around. Half double, 11 singles, 1, 2, 3. Coming to the end here, this is my 11th single crochet, 1 half double crochet, and I am back to that beginning corner that I made. I'm just going to do a slip stitch into the top of that first stitch, and you should have something that looks like this. So I'm really happy with how that has straightened out. So I'm not going to do anything fussy for round 7. I just want to build that background up a little bit more. So I'm going to form corners as well as just do half double crochets all the way around. So to start that, I'm going to do a chain 2 to serve as my first half double crochet. And then I have 2 more stitches left over here on the side. So I'm going to do a half double crochet for each of those. And now I'm at my corner. And for my corner, I'm doing a double crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet. 1 double, chain 1, 1 double. And then moving on, just half double crochets in every stitch around. Don't forget this very first stitch right next to that corner. That one is easy to miss. Your goal here, if you're following along exactly, is to have 21 stitches on each side. I'm nearing the end. One last half double crochet. And then a slip stitch into the top of that very first stitch that I made. At this point you can fasten off if you like, but I do prefer to add a single crochet all the way around the edge. It seems to just pull it all together for me. And to do that, it's very simple. I'm just going to do single crochets all the way around, 1 single crochet in that corner for that chain 1, and we'll be good to go. I'm going to add a chain 1 to serve as my first single crochet for that first area there, and then just continue around with single crochets. For my corners, like I just mentioned, 1 single crochet, and then continue around, adding a single crochet into the top of every single stitch. If you're wanting to join these 2 other squares that have a different stitch count, then this is a good time to increase or decrease stitches to help it match. And that's your retro daisy square completed. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it made sense. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.